With more than 2 million downloads, this is your number one source for true crime coverage in America. This is Murder in the Morning with Tony Bruschi and Stacey Cole.
From the Hit Killers Podcast, Murder in the Morning.
It's happening. The Bryan Kohberger trial is moved, and there's going to be a new judge as well. Yes. Kohberger, of course, accused of killing the University of Idaho students in 2022, no longer going to be held in Moscow. The trial, the college town where the murders took place, in a ruling filed on September 6th, Latah County Judge John C. Judge granted Kohberger's defense team's motion to change the venue, citing concerns about media coverage and the potential for bias in the close-knit community of Moscow, saying, quote, considering the undisputed evidence presented by the defense, the extreme nature of the news coverage in this case, and the smaller population of Latah County, the defense has met the rather low standard of demonstrating a reasonable likelihood that prejudicial news coverage will compromise a fair trial in Latah County. The judge wrote in the order, as a result, the trial, initially expected to begin in June of 25, will be moved to another location, though a new venue has yet to be determined. Judge also pointed out logistical challenges in holding the trial in Latah County, noting that the courthouse lacks the necessary staff and space to accommodate both the prosecution and defense teams, as well as adequately secure for a high-profile trial. Quote, the Latah County Sheriff's Office does not have enough officers to ensure security, Judge added. Bryan Kohberger, the former PhD student studying criminal justice and criminology at the Washington State University, facing 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary in connection with the stabbing deaths of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. The 4 students were found dead in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th of 2022. Kohberger has pled not guilty to all of the charges. 2 additional roommates in the house were unharmed during the attack and have been ruled out as suspects. Investigation, of course, gaining a lot of attention. That's what started our show, particularly because of Kohberger's academic background and the brutality of the murders. Kohberger arrested nearly 7 weeks after the killings while visiting family in Pennsylvania for the holidays. And, of course, there is DNA connecting him to the crimes on the knife sheath left behind the very bed where Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez were discovered. According to a probable cause affidavit, Kohberger's cell phone also pinged in the area of the victim's residence at least 12 times before the night of the murders. So, despite delays in finalizing the trial location, Kohberger's defense has raised several concerns about the ability to secure a fair trial. The new trial location and the judge who will oversee the case are expected to be announced soon. So, Judge John Judge, he's out. Coming in next, it's Judge Judy going to make a reappearance for this.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? Boy, that trial wouldn't go on for very long now, would it?
She'd shut that down pretty quick. She'd shut that shit down very fast. It'll be interesting. I don't know. It's for the best. I'm going to say that. I really do think it is for the best, because the last thing any of these people need, the families, everybody trying to deal with this and grieve, and again, I hate saying the word like find closure, because you're never going to find closure with something like this if it's your kid. But finding a way to I guess, move forward. You don't want to have a retrial. You don't want to have appellate issues that are going to be valid. And it, frankly, would be an appellate issue that is fairly valid if he is convicted in Moscow, because of it being a very small community, and it's basically the villagers have pitchforks out. And rightfully so. I get it. I'm not saying they're wrong for having the pitchforks out, but that might not be the best place to find a fair trial either.
No, and this is such high stakes at this point that they need to dot their I's and cross their T's. Everything has to be perfect with this. We don't need another Karen Reed with this one. No. I mean, and that's how quickly that can happen. And look how much that's tearing apart that community. Mm-hmm. So. Absolutely. And now, I mean, think about it. There's no house for them to go to. So what is the real purpose of having it in that community anyway now? Now, other than just for the sake of these are the people who suffered through this hell, why not have it there? Which I get that argument. I get the I don't give a fuck, we're doing it here argument. But that's more based on emotions than it is based on like just reasonable, clear-headed minds
thinking long-term, big picture. It feels really good to go, fuck you, we're having it here. But in reality, if we really are thinking long-term and peace for everyone involved here and all the victims, it may be inconvenient for a handful of weeks that you have to drive somewhere else if you want to go see it. But at the end of the day, it may save you several more years of your life of headache and heartache with a retrial.
Oh, this is going to be such a big one.
What's really going to suck is if it gets a hung jury and it's somewhere else and they try to do everything they could to prevent it from happening and it happens. But I who knows? I didn't think Karen Reed would. Oh, no, I did think Karen Reed would end up in a hung jury. I don't feel like this one will. I just feel like there's too much information here. We got the DNA, and this is just what we know about. We got to remember that too when we talk about this case, because there's so much. This is everything in this case is so sealed up. Other cases a little more loose, many times where we find out more. But this is just what we know, and it's really from the original police report. DNA in the knife sheath, the cell phone data, the surveillance footage of the vehicle, the behavioral patterns of Kohberger. Those are all pretty strong pieces of evidence. Who knows what the fuck's on his phone? We don't know that yet. And then they examined that, and they examined his hard drives. Who knows what we're going to hear on that front? And the arguments, of innocence here are basically saying that it's circumstantial evidence, and there was no eyewitnesses, and his alibi is he liked to go driving at night. So I think one's a little stronger than the other when you weigh them.
Yeah. We're going to hear a lot about the cell phone pinging. I think they're going to try to refute that, that it's not accurate. It's not all these things. And yet, amazingly so, a lot of these cases really hinge on that cell phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Karen Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Just, either they're reliable or they're not. It just depends on the case.
Very much so. I mean, and look, people are going to pick and choose what's reliable and not reliable based on who they're defending and whatnot. It's funny because what case in Delphi they're saying that triangulation's not a very good science. Like it could be the whole county that could be triangulated, and that's not how that works. It was invented by Google for walking through the mall. And then you get a notice on your phone that says, "Hey, big sale right now at Sam Goody." Is Sam Goody even a store anymore?
There's an old reference, but when you're driving past Starbucks and it goes, "Hey, you want to order?"
Exactly. That's what triangulation is not for the whole county. It is pretty minute. I mean, you may be in front of the Chick-fil-A and the Starbucks is next door and you're going to get the notification, but you're not going to necessarily get it across the other side of town. And the funny part is police will use that quite heavily. Prosecution, the state will use that quite heavily. It's only over in the Delphi case where they're like, we don't think this is that good of a sign. Really? You're going to pick? Okay, they'll remember that for every other case they try in your county that you guys have said this isn't reliable, according to you, even though it is very, very reliable. Mm-hmm. There's just not a lot of legs. Unless there's something here. This is why we have trials. And like I said, we don't know what the prosecution all has up their sleeve. We also don't know what the defense all has up their sleeve. But if there is something that would be looked at as exonerating, we would have heard it by now. Because
you're right.
They're not going to go to a trial with somebody and drag everybody through this if there was clearly exonerating evidence that existed. And if there's not, there's not. And just saying he likes to go driving at night is not a fucking alibi.
No, that sounds like a very weak excuse.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, quite honestly. That's all you got? You couldn't come up with something else? Anything else?
Yeah.
No. So that's coming up next summer. It's mark your calendars. We'll see what happens. But that'll be nearly 3 years since the horrible tragedy there in Moscow, Idaho. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years, but it's It's coming up.
All right, true crime addicts, let's cut the crap. You're knee-deep in the gory details of your favorite podcast when suddenly a commercial hits like a bad meal. Seriously? You deserve better. Upgrade to True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts, where you can binge without those annoying ads. Plus, get extended interviews that go deeper into the darkness and early access to episodes so you can be the first to know. It's like trading up from fast food to fine dining, but with more blood. So, go ahead. Search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and feast on the good stuff.